Right, hello. Apparently I'm now live. I'm going to go live a few minutes early just to make sure that Evgenia, who I'm probably mispronouncing it, I'm going to ask her in a minute, is going to join me okay. So I'm just going to keep my eye out for her joining me. And once she's here with me, I will add her and then we'll get started. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us all. Yeah, let me just keep my eyes open. If you are here, Evgenia, please do let me know and I'll add you, okay? Hi everyone, welcome. Sorry, I'm probably looking a bit distracted because I'm keeping my eye on all the people who are joining, and hoping that our guest for this month is going to be joining us soon as well. Hey, hi everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us. This is the bit where I look a little bit weird until my guest joins me, and you just have to listen to me kind of prattling on a little bit. My apologies. I did ask her to turn up 5 minutes early, so hopefully any second. Greetings from North London, by the way, where it's very cold. I was out this morning watching my son play football and it was freezing. Especially on the sidelines where you're not doing the running around. Hi everyone, welcome. I'm just going to wait a few minutes because I'm waiting for my guest for the month to join. I'm hoping I've remembered the correct name to look out for. Evgenia, if you are here and I've missed you, please do just type a comment so I know and I can add you, okay? Excuse me, let me just get my cup of tea as well. Aha, there you are. Right, I'm hoping this should work. Let's see.
Hi.
Oh, hello, how are you? Welcome.
I'm all right. Hello, welcome, to my classroom.
Hey, welcome to my little office. So
Thank you so much.
I was
Right.
I wasn't sure what I'm calling you. What do you prefer to be called?
Oh, well, actually, it's very different. In Ukraine, they call me Evgenia or Zhenya. When I was doing my CELTA, I was called Jenny, Zhenya, Jen, or something like that.
What do
So,
you prefer to be called?
honestly, Eugenia. It's like my favorite. Yeah.
Okay, Eugenia.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, welcome. Thank you very much for agreeing to join me. I should just, I'll turn it over to you in a minute. I'm just going to briefly say a little bit about what we're doing for the people who haven't watched one of these things before. As you probably know from following us on Lexical Lab, we're trying to kind of keep abreast of what's happening with Russia's war on Ukraine and trying to offer as much support as we can to Ukrainian teachers in very difficult contexts. And I had this idea at the start of the year, really, of just doing lives once a month. I've been trying to do lives myself just to talk about teaching and stuff like that when I get a moment. And I thought it would be really good just to do some lives with different teachers from Ukraine and to talk about your experiences and everything. And so this is the second one we've done. I'm going to leave the video up later for anyone who wants to watch it later. The first video that I did with Ksenia, who was living with us last year, is still up on the site. And that's the plan for the next hour or so, however we go. So if it's all right with you, I've basically got some questions that I think some of which you've some of which you thought of about 10 minutes ago. So we'll come to those later. And we'll just kind of, I'll throw the questions at you and leave you to and interrupt you when I feel like it. So
That's all right. Yeah, it's just, like, I'm really flattered that you have invited me to this live because, like, it's so important, and I'm really grateful to keep talking about Ukraine, to keep talking about what's going on, because, like, every experience is different. And for example, Ksenia's experience is absolutely different from mine.
Yeah.
Some other teachers, like, have absolutely different thing. And I like it, like that people can see the like war and what's going on to us, like from different points of view, from different perspective. And it's really important, and I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to talk about Ukraine once again.
Yeah, well,
Really.
and I hear you, because I mean, I know friends of mine who were originally living in Donetsk, and that they left Donetsk in 2014, and then they ended up
Yeah.
in Kyiv, and then they've had to leave Kyiv, and so their experience of the war's been very different to, say, someone
Yeah.
living in Lviv the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So it obviously
Absolutely.
depends where you are and where you're from and what your experiences have been. So maybe
Yes.
to begin with, if you wouldn't mind, could you just tell us a bit more about you, your family, where you grew up, where you...
Sure, yes, of course. So, like, that's no problem. I have grown up, like, in Poltava, in Ukraine. I've been born here. It's my native town. It's not a very big town. Like, it's like 300, 250,000 people living. And it's between Kharkiv and Kyiv, so, like, kind of central part of Ukraine. And my background is quite very versatile, because my parents, my paternity side, they are from Kharkiv region, Kupiansk, Kivsharivka, the ones that been bombarded these days. And the other side is actually from Russia. Like, but what's interesting, my grandma is from Russia and everything, but she's living in Ukraine since 2014, by the way. And she has met my grandpa because he was sent from Ternopilsky region, because his father was helping guerrilla UPA in the 1950s and 1940s. He wasn't the part of the army, but he was the farmer. He was giving them food, and because of that, he was sent to Russia with all his family, where my grandma met my grandfather. So, like, that's kind of the story.
I know there were huge numbers of Ukrainians who were sent into Russia during
Absolutely.
the sort of Second World War and in the aftermath of the Second World War, yeah?
Yes, yes, it was. I think, like, it's every single family that was touched by that, really. So,
Yeah.
like, it's just about that. So that's why, like, for me, it's and my parents ended up in Poltava, and I'm, like, extremely happy being here and being brought up the way I was brought up. Of course, there were ups and downs, but I'm extremely grateful for everything that they have done for me. Yeah.
And when you were growing up in a Russian-speaking family or a Ukrainian-speaking family?
Yes.
Or was
Yes.
it both? Or...
It was actually also quite an interesting thing, because, as I told you, my father's side is from the Kharkiv region,
Yeah.
and they were kind of Russified more than the family from the, like, western side, right? So, like, from the western part of Ukraine. And what's interesting that, yeah, I was brought up Russian speaking, and for me, English was easier than Ukrainian, and it's still a problem sometimes, like, when students are asking for translation, the first part that comes to my mind is Russian, and only then Ukrainian. And it's a problem. Yeah, I understand that, and I'm working on that. I'm, like, learning. I'm trying to speak more Ukrainian now. Yeah, so, like, but it was that. And what's interesting, my father's parents were speaking purely Ukrainian. And once I would even ask them, why are you speaking so strangely? Because I was brought up in Russian-speaking environment and stuff.
And that
like,
of the mind.
But I was 5 years old, so, like, it's obvious, like, just a question, and they were like, no, it's not weird, it's Ukrainian. And I was like, what's Ukrainian? Yeah, I know that it's embarrassing, but it is the part of me, and that's what was I, like, when I was little. And later on, yes, of course, in school, I was speaking more Ukrainian. And honestly, my husband is Ukrainian speaking, so, like, and, like, I met him in high school, so that's why I turned Ukrainian speaking throughout my becoming too, so that's why everything's all right now. Yeah, well, but still, yeah.
And where did English kind of fit into all of this for you? Like, how did you get into English, and then how did you get into English language teaching?
Yeah, so, like, to English, I actually really turned, like, my whole love, like, and awakening to English came when I was, I think, like, 12. And it was because like like before that I hated English. I know that I needed to do it. I needed to do the exercises. I needed to do everything. But later on, like in the 8th grade, I just remember that, and I was like, but I can do that. I can understand songs with that. I can do this and that. And after that, I was just like, whoa, English is just the whole other world. And it came to me. And since that, I knew that English would be like part of my life.
Was there
And
a particular kind of moment that helped you? Or?
yeah, there was the song. It actually was an old song, and it's a very sad song. Wild Rose by Kylie Minogue and some other guy. I don't remember who was that.
Kylie Minogue and Nick Cave. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And I heard this song, and like I understood every word, and I was like, huh? I can understand that now. So like, and after that, like English was like purely smoothly go into my brain, like without any, well, there were some difficulties, of course, so, but not so much as it was before. And after that, I decided to go to university in Poltava University. It's not the worst, by the way, university as people are saying. Yeah, so like, because like, as long as you're working, you will get the result. That's all. It's that simple. So like that's what we can say.
And when did you become a teacher?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I became a teacher. I really liked English, and I really wanted to share my experience with English with my students out there. And I really wanted to change the perspective of the teacher, because like I didn't like the way some of the teachers were behaving with other guys there. And like once I met even the phrase there, something like be the teacher who you needed like when you were a teen.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, like I had this in my brain when I was like practicing, like there's practice for teachers like in the universities and stuff. And that's what I wanted to change, because like my English teacher is like the best in the world. But some moments I remember that I would do differently, probably. That's why I'm here. Right.
I think that's an interesting comment, because I think when I first started teaching, I mean, the guy who persuaded me to teach, he said, it's an old friend of mine. We're in a pub one night, and he said to me, like, if you want to travel, teacher. And I said to him, like I hate teachers. And he said, hating teachers is a really good reason for becoming a teacher.
Yeah, so like just to change the perspective, to change the way that people see the teachers, right? So like we don't want people to hate them.
What you said, like be the teacher that you needed to have had, or use the teachers that you had bad experiences with as kind of negative role models of what not to do and how to do things.
What not to do, yes, so that's true. Yes, like, but again, as I told before, my teacher, like in my high school and in my school, was one of the best, and I really, like, a lot of things that she put in my brain, they're still there.
Yeah.
But some moments, yes, like, it's just, I want to, like, change, and I'm doing that, like, throughout my career right now.
Well, I mean, my whole life was basically changed by having one great teacher, and she was my English teacher. So, here we both are.
Okay.
And so, from that, I guess I'm interested in, when did you then first start becoming kind of aware of politics? What was there some kind of like political awakening that you had, or was it something slower that crept up on you? When did politics kind of an awareness of what was going on politically happen for you?
Yes, so I would say that I'm from the quite an average family, and I'm extremely thankful to my parents that they were smart enough to put in my brain that I always must have questions. I always must ask questions and look from the different sides. And my political awakening happened in 2004 when I was 11. Because then happened Orange Revolution, and interesting enough, in my family, my mom was the supporter of Viktor Yanukovych, and my father was the supporter of Viktor Yushchenko. And we always had like, this wasn't like, like these battles with the flying pans or something like, or plates like in the kitchen. No, it was like the conversations in the kitchen, like pretty typical for every single family. And like, from that moment, I didn't understand maybe a lot of things. Well, 11-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So like, but I understood that something's wrong in our system. I understood that something is not right. But I remember knitting orange scarf for my father. Yeah, and my mother was going everywhere with the blue ribbon. So like, and it was such a surreal thing, really. So, but like, obviously, so like they both had arguments. It wasn't like I support him, you're stupid. No, it was like something like, but what do you think about this and this and this? And
They
I'm
were
thinking
able,
about that and that and that. Can you repeat? Sorry.
yeah, and they were able to have a discussion about it. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. And it taught me, so like that was my first awakening about the whole political kind of stuff. And then when I was 18, I decided to join one of the, like, it's not the party, I was just kind of the watcher on the whole nation elections.
Yeah.
There is such a possibility for young people, for everyone, I think like it's everywhere there.
Kind of
And
observer kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, the observer, it's better to say that one, yes. So like, and I was the observer for several years, like since 18 till I think like 25, yes, like about that. So like every like 2-4 years I was there, and we understood how the political system worked, we understood what was going on, and I started to realize that the processes in politics are not that simple. Let's say, let's put it nicely in this way. Right. So, but it is what it is, and I stopped being the observer since I was 25, because at that moment I realized that unfortunately it's not my place. So like I'm more useful in somewhere else. So like in the, if we are talking about the civil society, volunteering and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll come to the whole thing about civil society later, because I think it's something that's been really, really important for Ukraine and really noticeable for me from the outside world as something that's clearly given the country great strength. But before we get there, so what were your memories of 2014? Because I guess being where you were in Poltava, you're not a million miles away from where
Absolutely.
the Russians first arrived and from what was going on there. Yeah. So what was your memories of that period?
Oh, well, I want to start actually not about 2014, but when it actually started in the late 2013. We were in Kyiv in that period of time. It was like the end of November, beginning of December. We weren't in the initial procedure. We weren't in the initial meeting there in the end of November, but we came on the 6th, or on the, like somewhere before the 6th of November. So like that's December, sorry. So like in 2013. What's it?
This is to the Maidan, or just in Kyiv?
Yes, like right before the Maidan, after already the first beatings, after like the first like actions that were happening out there, we came there, and you know, like it was quite a surreal experience because I was 21. It was like such a weird experience because you just became an adult, right? So like you stopped studying in universities and stuff. You understand that right now you can step out of the box, you can do something. I came actually for the concert, like the first reason. And the second one, I wanted to stay, and me and my then boyfriend, now husband, stayed there for the night in Kyiv. And it was just like such a wonderful experience because we met people, we talked, we saw some of his relatives like who were staying in Maidan, like, and it was just like the place. But then my mom called me and my godfather called me, and they took a promise from me that I will never do it again. So because they were kind of scared of me going there, and like I understand them honestly, and but at that moment, you know, like I was angry with me that I gave them this promise, like they pushed it out of me, but that's all right. Yeah, so like I still was the part of that. I was the part of Poltava Maidan though. So like I was here, I was coming to the meetings, we were screaming like and staying there. I didn't take part in overtaking the governor's office, but it's a little other story there. Yes, yeah, so like, but 2014.
And so, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you very quickly. I guess for the people from outside of Ukraine and maybe who don't know so much about the history, the original kind of demonstrations on the Maidan were protests against Yanukovych for basically breaking his promises to turn Ukraine in a more European direction, and basically kind of caving into power pressure from Moscow to kind of, you know, remain close to the Kremlin rather than close to Europe.
Yeah.
And that this
and
to kind of anger.
Yeah. There is an interesting moment about that, like that at first it was called Euromaidan.
Hmm.
So like Europe and Maidan like together like with that. And later it turned into the Revolution of Dignity,
Yeah.
which is actually what happened to the people. And this is how people were perceiving what was going on. And to me, it was absolutely reevaluating all my values, understanding what's right, what's wrong. Plus, like it was, as I told you before, I was in pretty vulnerable age, so I understood what should be done. I understood what I need to do, what steps need to be taken in order to get to the right point. And yeah, of course, I was really scared for the people. I was really worried for my friends, for my relatives who were at the Kyiv Maidan. In Poltava, it was quite okay, like
Yeah.
really, like there were some clashes with police, but it was smooth, really. So like about that.
Comparison.
Yeah. So like, but it's what we had, and we had also after everything happened. I remember one of the biggest meetings that we had. It was actually in the 20s of 2014, when the annexation of Crimea had started.
Yeah.
When the Green people entered Crimea territory,
Putin,
and
green men.
yeah, and polite men, like вежливые люди, so as they were calling themselves. And what's interesting, as I told you, my grandma started living with me since 2014. When I called her, at that moment she was living in Moscow. I told her, Grandma, the Russian soldiers are in Crimea. It's terrible. It's awful. And like what scared me the most is that she asked me, why do you lie to me? And I was like, I didn't know how to react to that. However, as I told you, she started living with me since 2014, and everything is awesome. She's here. She doesn't even want me to switch to Russian when I'm talking to her. So like, this is like an amazing lady of 76 years old. Yeah.
And she's seen for herself the fact that, what you're told might be a lie in Moscow isn't actually a lie when you're on the ground in Ukraine, yeah?
Yes, yeah, but like she was kind of scared still. Like when she first came to Poltava, at first 2 months, she was really scared of walking around and speaking Russian in Poltava. Poltava is like they speak mixture of Russian and Ukrainian here, and like she was scared. And later, like I remember we took her to what's it?
That she might be called a Moscow or this kind of thing.
Or maybe she might get killed even, like, so she was literally scared for her life. And I remember that we took her to Reshetilivka. It's not so far from here. They have a spring festival, which is called something like Reshetilivska Vesna or something like that. And, she was like walking around, everyone was in Vyshivanka and everything like that. And she was like walking around and talking, it's like, there are no banderas here. And I'm like, yes, because they are people. They are people just having fun. Oh, no, she hasn't become a Nazi. That's a nice question, though.
Maybe
right, or maybe she has, like if we are talking about the way they call it. Yeah.
I'm sure Putin would see her as a Nazi now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But she's an amazing woman. She's like one of the smartest people in the world. And, she is a math teacher. So like she's really a really smart lady. And for me,
family, yeah.
Yeah, well, kinda. I'm the teacher, but my mom is not a teacher. So like, but my cousins, my brother and my sister, my cousin's sister is also a teacher. So yeah.
And so back in 2014, were you aware of any of the kind of Russian incursions in Poltava, or did that manage to sort of pass you by?
Actually, we did have some weird meetings of something which was called Titushki at that moment. Titushki, it's like hired by the pro-Russian government people who are hired to beat.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So like the fans, hooligans, like something like that, who are hired to beat some people like I am, like other people. And I remember that me, my friends, we were wearing like some blue and yellow flags. I still do have this flag at my home. We went in March. It was the beginning of March, and it was snowing. I remember that it was like literally like this big like snowflakes falling down, and I saw that there were 3 buses of these titushkas coming, and we, like students, standing there looking at them, like my husband and my friends were just like standing there ready to fight, and I'm like the lady standing behind them, but they didn't even approach to the crowd that gathered against them.
Mm.
And I was like so happy about that. Like those people who were kind of in the negotiations with them, they told us that they were scared away, and I choose to believe that.
And
So
the people that are referred to as pro-Russian separatists.
yeah. So, but really, I'm happy that this didn't happen in Poltava. In Kharkiv, it was like quite scary.
Yeah.
And in Donetsk and in Luhansk, I don't know like what people went through. It was just awful. It was like really stressful time. And people were not as ready as they were in 2022, if I can say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, kind of fast forward a little bit. Where were you, and what happened for you when the full-scale invasion happened just over a year ago?
For sure, yes. Like everyone else had this anxiety inside during the full-scale invasion. Like when it was the morning, I woke up from the sound of the planes and from the sound of rockets. I didn't hear the explosions. I actually woke up and I was shaking. It was the first time in my life when I understood what it means, like the blood went cold.
Yeah.
And it is actually a really scary moment and stuff. And I was really scared to wake my mother-in-law, so like because I was staying in her house at that moment, and I was scared, like, how do I tell her? Like people are thinking about their children and about some, like I wasn't scared about my grandma parents, but about her I was like, how do I tell her? Like what's going to be? Yes, so but it was there. I was scared, yes, of course. And we were on the hunt for the fuel, but like till 5 o'clock on the 24th of February, me and my husband were just hunting for some, fuel, for some food, for food for the cats and everything. And then, and what if they bomb Poltava in the evening? And we decided, in that moment, we decided to go instantly to the village. It's 100 kilometers from Poltava, but 3 days passed, and I was like, you sit there. I was not far from Myrhorod. Myrhorod was bombed in the first days of full-scale invasion, and we heard this, like our village is not far from there, and I was like, I'm useless in the village. Like I'm really useless in the village. Yeah, so like I need to go back, and on 27th of February we came back to
just start growing some potatoes and.
Nah, I'm not that kind of person. Sorry. Yeah, so, but I really, I remember sitting all the time thinking about what we're gonna do and everything. And of course, I put my teaching on hold, and I actually was thinking that, oh my God, who will need teachers of English right now? And I stopped teaching for, actually, I restarted my lessons since 12th of March, but it was more, to entertain the children, to entertain the teens, to let them to let their steam off a little bit. So it was like that was in my head actually at that point, not actual English grammar, vocabulary, whatever.
I imagine English becomes a kind of very secondary concern at times like this.
Absolutely, and I was really thinking that there will be no English whatsoever, like teaching. I mean, so I was thinking like, what can I do? I can do some volunteering. Let me do that one. And I was trying to help, like to create these camouflage nets, so like creating some, gathering some medicine, gathering some like sweet things, and later it turned out to be the bigger initiative. But still, it was that, and like since March, yes, like I'm here, and I have never left the city.
It's really something I've heard from lots and lots of Ukrainians, which is in those early days, people kind of realized that you had to be everywhere doing everything for everyone.
Yes, and you have to understand that, well, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because the brain activity is not constant, like people have to do it still because the war is not over. And right now it's even, like right now we just don't know a lot of things.
Yeah.
but it's still going on. It's really, and it's horrifying, and the horrors that we are about to see after,
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm trying to prepare my brain for that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I realize that it's very
I,
useless.
I think what you also realize is when you see the deoccupied zones. I mean, I remember when they deoccupied the Kharkiv region, and
Absolutely.
I mean, when they deoccupy Mariupol, it's going to be hellish. There's going to be mass graves
Yeah.
everywhere. There's going to be unbelievable
In Mariupol,
stories
it's actually
of
scary
awfulness.
because they have covered a lot of things, like already, and that's scary.
Yeah, yeah. So before I come on to the kind of the volunteering and the civil society side of things, could you maybe just talk a bit more about how the last year has affected your teaching? Because you said like you took kind of like what 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off teaching, and then went back
Mm-hmm.
to teaching. And how have you managed to teach, and how has the year affected your teaching, and what kind of changes have you been
Mm-hmm.
a teacher?
Yeah. So that's actually a really good question, and a lot of people, a lot of teachers were asking this also in the beginning, like in April. Some of the teachers, I know that they were so shocked and so affected. They still do not have the like strengths or resource, like to
Yeah,
give
demanding to.
like. Yes. But for me, it was I have the twins students online. They were from Kyiv, like very close to that, and like it. And my friend is their mother. She's also a teacher, and I told her like, let me have the lesson with them so that you and your husband can figure out what to do. And it wasn't like the lesson really. It was some games and everything. Why I have come up with this idea? Because in 2014 I was working for the school, for the private institution, and in 2014 we have received several students who fled Donetsk, who fled Luhansk, who fled everything. And at that moment I had some literature. Well, of course it was just literature. Yes, like to how to behave with the teens and with the kids who have experienced some stress. Like, and in this case, it was more the stress from hearing the explosions,
Yeah,
from sitting too long time in the basement, from seeing some weird people, like not too bad, like in this case, let me say so, right? Because like what can we do like that? And I have followed those instructions in 2014, and I still have these students like with me. So like one of them is from Donetsk region, another one is from Donetsk by itself, and those students, like they are forever in my heart. They are forever with me, and they taught me how to behave with the students who are in stress
yeah,
and who are dealing with this, who want to talk about this, and like how to lead this conversation. I'm not a psychologist again, so like, but how to lead this conversation in the less traumatizing way that it could be.
yeah,
Because for them, they still need to talk. You cannot say like, let's abstract and get to English. No, you cannot do that. Unfortunately, of course. Yeah, so, but like it was really a great starter for me because I had previous experience of working with teens and kids from that, and that was my idea. And the whole March, like I was teaching for free, like of course, and I was thinking about like really like getting to more psychological kind of side, and it helped. It really helped to all of my students who are staying with me. It really helped, and I think like most teachers who came back to teaching, they understood that it helped not only the students.
your teaching was online the whole time, yeah?
Of course, I'm actually the online teacher, although I
Oh,
like the offline. Yes, so but mostly I have online groups on Zoom and everything, and yeah, we overcome everything. So like we can do it, and it was good. Yeah, so like that.
and you've managed to continue through the last year despite all of the attacks on the infrastructure
Yes,
and the power cuts and the shelling,
yes.
the air raids and the yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So but of course, like if we're talking about the kids groups, like not the adults, like and the teens, I had to talk to the parents and tell them, like, excuse me, in my building, like where I am right now, there is no bomb shelter, even no basement. That's why I'm sorry, we're keeping it on Zoom. Like I do not want to take the responsibility for that. However, when you said power cuts started, some parents were like, can they come to your office, please? And I was like, okay, let's try it. Couple students were online, couple students were offline. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this kind of combination kind of lessons, but it's a great opportunity. And you know, like what I noticed is that, yeah, children and the students, they grew up really quickly and they became more understanding of anything at all like that is happening around here. Of course, you know, like when it is the combo kind of lesson, you pay a little bit more attention to the screen, less attention to the students who are in the class, or vice versa. But you have to run around between them. And it's like with the microphone and with something. So like it's a lot of things, a lot of little details, but
Hey,
everyone became so understanding. Yeah.
it's cheaper than going to the gym.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like just running and doing some, and but really, really, so
Well,
like, yeah, yeah. And what I wanted to say is that the studies and the school basically became slower. And not a lot of teachers want to admit that. And for example, like if you take one course book, you want to finish it in the end of the year, like usual 9 months.
end of next.
I'm sorry. Yes, like, hey, we already started the next year, we will finish it next year. But not a lot of teachers want to admit that. Like really, so like the studies became slower because of the stress. The brain activity has slowed down a little. So that's what we have. Just that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm constantly amazed and impressed and inspired by the Ukrainian teachers who are doing what they're doing in the circumstances they're doing it in. So, you know, thank you to you and to all of your colleagues for doing what you're doing.
Oh, it's all the community. Thank you so much on behalf of them.
Really inspirational to people outside of Ukraine. So thank you. So what I wanted to ask about next was kind of your other activities outside of teaching, and maybe if you can talk about that and maybe talk a bit about the kind of importance of civil society for Ukraine and the way in which Ukraine survived over the last year.
Of course, yes. So like I want to start like a little bit from from 2014, from 2013, when I started working in school. In that school, there was the action which is called Shoebox Charity from the Shoebox or something like that. And it inspired me later in the years to continue this activity, like with the people, with the students, with everyone around, for the children who had cancer. And we were collecting a lot of like money and sweets and everything like that. But you know, like right before war, like why am I talking about that? We were collecting money for some medicine, like they were very expensive medicine for this kind of for these kids. And like we collected money and everything, and we were supposed to receive those bottles, those medicine, in March. And yeah, we received them, everything's all right. So like, but it was war already going on here. So it was kind of scary. But you know, I understood the moment when we delivered these like bottles to the like children who had cancer, I understood like this is the moment, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do in this life and everything. So, and at that point, when I came to one of the schools, I tried to find like, you know, like some mechanical work. As I told you, I didn't think that I can gather people around me. I didn't think everything. I was thinking simple. I need some simple task. Give me something simple. So I was cutting some clothes to make these camouflage nets and stuff there. And then I realized that somebody called me like, do you need some like pictures? Do you need some sweets? Like we want to give some sweets to the soldiers from my friends, from someone else, from someone else. And I was like, I don't have the capacity to do something about it. And you know, like we started gathering, we started understand, like coming up with this, with that, and eventually it turned out into the huge movement. Let's say so. Like I cannot say that this is the movement. Like on my scale, it's quite big. So we were like doing something like for the soldiers. Like this is what I'm going to give them away. So children were doing some crafts. I want to show this like little thing, little angels. Yeah. So like, of course, like I put it precisely here, not to forget to show that this is our home, right? Like something like Mr. Счастливых людей, the place for the happy people there. So also the warmers and stuff like that. And I actually, you know, about the warmers, what's interesting in Europe, they're a little bit cheaper. So like, for example, but I found in Poltava, the producer of these wonderful things. So like, and they give me by the price in Europe. So like the same amount, the same quality. This is like will go to the soldier section. So, but what I notice is that people kind of united together, and people feel they have this feeling of belonging.
Yeah.
We were talking with one of my colleagues there, so that when people do not have this feeling of belonging, they don't have this feeling of community, their hands kind of fall.
Yeah. No, it's funny because, I mean, my dad was a kid during the Second World War, and my dad grew up in South London, and he told me some horrible stories about things he saw and things that happened during that time, and, you know, neighbors whose houses got blown up and all that kind of thing. But he also told me that it was the most united that he remembers people ever being. And he said, like, you know, the war finished, everyone celebrated, and then they went back to arguing, you know.
Oh my God, I imagine this is going to happen to Ukraine, like it's,
you know, of course,
it's people.
Well, I mean, in England as well, what happened was we had Churchill as a wartime leader, and as soon as the war finished, we voted him out. You know, it was like, thank you.
I imagine this happening.
And now we need something different, you know. So I understand that feeling of togetherness, and that, well, it's kind of, you're forced into a position of unity by circumstances, yeah?
Yeah. But you know, like what I really liked about this unity, so like especially in the beginning of war, everyone was like not colliding, kind of like collaborating together for everything. Like, for example, I have called some of my colleagues with whom, like, let's say, so we have fallen out, right? So like, and we didn't talk through like the year, and later, like since the start of war, we actually started talking again and talking about like, what can she do? What can I do? What can we all do? Some stuff there. So like also some people were like brought to you, and it's like formed the community. For example, one of my friends, some of my friends, they actually are the bakers, and they made some gingerbreads and stuff. And they, at first they started with me, but now they have kind of, you know, like they have their own sweet or gingerbread army. So like they're kind of separate, and they are selling, not selling, but sending the gingerbreads to different soldiers, to different squadrons, like, I don't know, like parts of the army. Yeah. So like, and it's just like such a great unity. People are still together. People are still doing something, and they feel it. And it's really important in the civil society to understand what is going on, what can we do, and in what steps we can achieve the necessary idea that is in our heads. Like, first of all, we have the victory, but victory is like, let's be honest, we don't know when it's gonna happen. It's quite vague future. We cannot plan like very far, but we understand, this week we had, for example, like it was, I remember it like this summer. I want to bring you the example of the summer when Kremenchuk, it's not far from Poltava, was under the terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Yes, so like, and
it was Kramatorsk was the railway station.
Well, but it's in Kremenchuk, in Kramatorsk it was a railway station. In Kremenchuk it was the shopping mall, and in that shopping mall died quite a lot of people, and some of the good friends of my students, let's say so, like too, and it was quite devastating. But you know, like in that moment, after that, I realized that we have to reunite these people. We have to recollect them together and to show them, so we hate these guys. And we need to, like, in order to put this hate into the resource. So like, for example, okay, so like you lost your friend, all right, so let's collect the money for this family to at least to cover some expenses for the funeral. I understand, yes, like it's horrible to say, but yeah, so like that's what we have. And then, you know, like after that, this person felt better. These people felt better after they have completed this, you know, like raising money for this family. And then after that, they understood, we can do something more. We can buy some Starlink for the soldiers from here. So we can do something there. And that's where we are. We are all like in the chain. We're together in this. And the moment we realize that, the you know, like the unity will never break. So that's what I want to say.
One of the remarkable ironies of the whole war, which is a war that was clearly designed to try and break and destroy Ukraine as a country and as an identity and as a nation, has actually had the kind of complete opposite effect. And
yes.
kind of really galvanizing effect on Ukrainian society and on people identifying as Ukrainians and being able to work together and, you know, to without necessarily looking up the levels of the society and just kind of realizing, like you're saying, this idea of mutual. I mean, it's funny because it's like the old Russian anarchist ideas like Kropotkin and these kind of people about mutual and self-help and organizing communities yourself without needing people above you to do all of this stuff. And
but you know, like, I like to think about this not like the anarchists. I like to think about this like, if you want to change the world, you need to start with yourself.
yeah,
So like that, it's that simple. And you know, as like right now,
okay, because I know a lot of people from my time in Russia who have this idea if you start with yourself, but what it becomes is all too often a very just kind of, it's only about yourself, and it's only about changing yourself and making yourself better and making yourself happy. And what's interesting for me is what Ukrainians seem to have done is not that. It's basically about you start with yourself and the people around you and what you could do to help society as a broader whole. And I think that's a crucial difference. It's really, really an important difference, that it's not just about improving yourself. It's about yourself.
yes,
As
like, and inspiring others. Yes, like it's the community. Yes, yes. So, and you know, like this kind of like, I don't know, like this kind of hug, you could say, you know, like, and this kind of feeling of the hand, like of the other, it is so uplifting. Like it's just like gives so much strength. And I tell you the truth, like, of course, like I'm right now cheerful and jumping around, of course, but we all of us teachers, like with whom you have talked, with whom you will still have the speeches to, like we all have experienced severe burnout. Like it was so severe, like honestly, my January, it was absolutely in the darkness. So like but it's inevitable. And I imagine that most people in, like, if they are not in the community, if they do not feel that they have done something for the victory, they would experience this more often.
yeah, I think you're right. So I've got two or three kind of maybe more difficult questions.
Okay.
The first one is just, do you still have any friends or family in Russia?
Well, I do.
And have you managed to maintain contact?
I haven't maintained the contact since 2014. So like that's why for me it was quite easy.
And that,
Although once
or
I haven't talked, and if they try to talk to me, they think that I'm Bandera and Nazi, and I'm okay with that. So like, but you know, like they try to contact through the most vulnerable person that I have told you about, my grandma. They start talking to her, but you are Russian. How can you listen to them? And you know, like my grandma, as being what it is, like she says, like, oh, we have the bad internet, and she closes up and she doesn't talk to them for a week. And this is like the most terrible punishment.
Grandmother already here.
Yeah, like she's like amazing one. Yes, like, but really, I tell you the truth. So that once I had one contact with a Russian-speaking person, and I'm not sure that she's watching this, but probably she was my CELTA groupmate, but she's from St. Petersburg. And you know, like she was telling me like, how are you and everything, and I was like, I'm okay, don't talk to me, like, sorry, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. And she was like, oh, that's all right, in St. Petersburg I've got a spare room, so you can come over. And I'm like, no, sorry, I'm not sure that this is a good idea. You know, like yeah, I was trying to be but you know, like later I was telling her
like that.
She's got a child who needs some specific kind of medicine, and I just, you know, like I was trying to be as polite as possible, like, because I just, you know, like I don't have the energy to argue with them, so that's why I wanted to push it away as far as possible. And I told her, like, just buy the medicine and please let's stop communicating. I just don't want to do that. Thank you very much. And she was like, but Biden will soon come to Russia. And I was like, what has he to do with the Russian soldiers coming to Ukraine? Like, what he has to do with that? Nothing. So that's all. So, but I didn't answer to that message. I just decided to ignore, to save myself for better causes. As I told you, like, yeah, I do have hate and the anger, but let's put it to the good use. So something like that.
But maybe you've answered my next question already, which is kind of, How do you feel when, I mean, do you think about Russian society at the moment, or is it just something you try not to think about, or how do you feel about what's happening inside Russia? Because I mean, I still know people inside Russia, and I have a lot of very mixed, conflicting feelings a lot of the time about things. Because on one level, I know that there are crazy things happening there in a way that repressed, occupied people have to deal with. I know people are going to prison for writing "fuck the war" on walls, and I know that people who are laying flowers at memorials are being arrested, and you know, I know that anti-war protesters are being mobilized and all that kind of thing. But I also know that lots of people are just still like, you know.
Oh, they refuse to watch. Yes, so like they refuse to see. Yeah, you know, like that's a very good question, because I used to think about Russian society, and let's rewind a little bit further than 2022. In the end of the January 2021, there were a lot of protests because of Navalny, because of everything. I don't like Navalny because he supports the annexation of Crimea. So like, but it's another story. Yeah, like what I wanted to say, that there were a lot of like, you know, movements to start, and I was like, oh my god, they finally woke up in 2021. They finally woke up. Sorry, nothing happened, right? Like, as we can see so far. Yeah, so like, and I used to think about the Russian society, like maybe they will wake up, they understand, they will see the pictures, they will see everything. But I was talking to one of the bloggers. He's actually a military blogger. Oh, that's such a funny story. I'll tell you later. Yeah, so like this is a military blogger. He's a YouTuber, and he talks about, you know, like tactics, about what to wear, what kind of like armors. No, no, no. He's Russian. He's from oh my god, that part of Russia which is in Europe, like that little part. I don't remember the name. Yes, Kaliningrad. Thank you very much. Yes. So he's from there, and he, in the beginning of war, he said like, "Oh well, I will be the like bad person. I don't want to say that word." Yes, like, and he said that I will support Russia, and I was like, and at that moment, I was thinking that I can like talk to him and I can persuade him that no, it's not like that. But later I understood that I'm sorry, but there is only shit in the brain, so that's why there is nothing. Interesting moment. Fast forward to the autumn of 2022. He's not dead, but he's severely damaged and he's paralyzed now. Karma, I guess. So like something happened in Donetsk region. Something happened. I don't know what. So like, but it is.
And how do you see? I don't know if you saw, like yesterday in London there was a small peace demonstration, and in Berlin there was a bigger peace demonstration. And how do you feel about people in the West who are kind of marching for peace and who are calling for negotiated settlements to this war and insisting that we kind of stop arming Ukraine and, you know, encourage a negotiated settlement? How do you feel about all of that?
Well, first things first, like we are, again, civil society, everybody has the right to think what they think. That's one thing. But I just always, like, if I stumble upon such people or such people talk to me, I tell them, come over. I will show you around. You will experience everything in the best way possible. That's the first thing. And the second thing, if they don't want to talk to me, they start talking their Russian propaganda, brainlings, etc. I sent to them the interview of the American soldier who came here as a, like, not volunteer, but he came here to fight for Ukraine. And he recently had given the interview to CNN. And he said, like, this is the pure evil. We are fighting the pure evil. What if the Russian troops came and destroyed the part of Los Angeles? Would you be okay for negotiations?
This is
no.
The question I always have, which is like, which part of England would you like to offer?
Yeah, so like, and you know, even, but what's the scary part is that a lot of Russian people and pro-Russian and pro-Russian Ukrainians, we still have got those, loads of them, that's the truth, start talking about that. they start talking, but maybe we should give away the Donetsk and Luhansk and Crimea. And I was like, go away, like really. So like it's just the principal question, really. So like this is the question of life here. So, and you know, like it was in the film The Dark Times with the Churchill and everything. When are we going to learn this lesson?
Yeah.
So like when?
I mean, I think for a lot of Western Europe now, I think countries which have a previous history of Russian imperialism understand it very clearly. So I think Poland, Czechia, the Baltics, Finland, you know, Ukraine, obviously, Moldova, generally those countries understand very clearly what they're up against,
Oh, they do.
they're dealing with. I think Western Europe, particularly France and Germany, is a bit slower in understanding this. And I think maybe now people are sort of realizing that we made a mistake in 2014 by turning a blind eye to the annexation of Crimea and to the kind of covert occupation of Donbass, and that people thought that maybe that would be enough and that would stop, and obviously it hasn't stopped. And I think it's very clear that, you know, if Ukraine were to fall, then Moldova would fall, and if Moldova fell, then the Baltics would be threatened, and
everyone, you know, around.
Stop.
Yes, yes.
It's, I mean, I was talking to a Russian friend of mine yesterday, and he was saying how he hopes for a Ukrainian victory because this kind of just the insatiable appetite of the imperial beast, basically, and it keeps eating even when it's getting sick from eating, you know. And it's like, stop eating. You're gonna kill yourself with all your, you know. It's like you can't keep eating this much. It's not
absolutely. And you know, I wanted to add a little bit about 2014, about, you know, like Europeans and everyone letting kind of bite off the part of Ukraine. At first I was really angry about that, of course, too, and I understood that, yeah, probably this is the right way to think about this whole situation. And you know, like as much as I love Michelle Obama, like I like her books, but you know, like her husband let the invasion start, and I was like, you know, at first I was thinking like, what's going on? But we had we still have lots of problems, and Ukraine back in 2014 is absolutely not the same Ukraine in 2022. So like they are different.
Changed is the information ecosystem has changed dramatically, and I think
absolutely.
2014 the Russians were much more able to get their version of the story and their narrative into the West. And
that's what I wanted to say. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So like it means that the information war or battle in this case in 2014 was won by pro-Russians. And actually, you know, 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
So this year I was trying to read about the Holodomor, and I think that you mostly know about what it was. In 1930s, it was the famine, artificial famine in Ukraine. And I was reading Anne Applebaum, Червоний голод, the Red Famine.
Yeah.
Highly recommend to everyone to.
It's a great book. Her book about Gulag is also amazing.
Yeah, and there is the whole chapter about how Russian propaganda was working against Ukraine in the Western world from the inside, and that's what happened in 2014. So actually nothing new. So
it's still happening now. I know people in England who would see themselves as left wing, as I would myself, who still regurgitate Russian propaganda, and who still basically they think they're independent. I think for a lot of people in the West, the problem is we opposed the Iraq War, and we thought the Iraq War, quite rightly, was fought on false premises, and it was basically an oil war, and there was a lot of anger towards our government and the American governments for the Iraq War. And because of this kind of opposition to American imperial wars or English imperial wars, there's then an inability to recognize that what you're seeing is a Russian imperial war.
Absolutely.
The kind of, my enemy's enemy must be my friend. And I think a lot of people find it difficult to understand that sometimes your enemy's enemy is actually a bigger enemy. You know,
yes, that's
sometimes you're actually your friend, because your enemy's enemy is a really scary guy. And so I think Russian propaganda is very clever at kind of, I mean, the number of people who've sent me fucking Mearsheimer videos in the last year It's like, you know, here's what leading American academic Mearsheimer says. It's like, I know what Mearsheimer says. It's like every single pro-Russian person sends me a bloody Mearsheimer video or a Chomsky video. I know, you know, they're voices, but they're obviously widely consumed and widely propagated and spread, those kind of fringe voices.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And you know, like what I was trying to say about like this, you're really right that Russians are really smart in the way of propaganda, because they have mastered this craft for almost like a century already. And right now, I don't know like if you have seen this, and this is like for the teachers to know as well. In the TikTok for our like teens and the young adults and everyone, there is like quite massive romanticizing of communism and USSR.
Yeah.
So that's why be aware of that. And when you see something like this, you might show this to the kids and ask them, what do you think about that? Just like asking them.
You get young left-wing people who basically are quite naive and just want a better society, carrying hammer and sickle flags.
Yes, yes, and you know, like it's just like what's the scary thing is the ideas are really cool, like in communism and socialism and everything, but how they were persecuted and they want to follow the pro-Russian model, and you were like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, why? Just why? You know, like, and they are very young, and that's what's scary, that the youngsters start believing that, and that's.
I mean, I've been through my own kind of changing of thought processes myself. A few years ago, I was in, God knows, maybe Krasnodar, somewhere in Russia. And I took a picture of these restored murals that were in the station there. And I posted them on Instagram. And I remember a Polish student saying, you know, how can you post it? This is disgusting. We had to live under this system. And I was sort of like, it's just beautiful kind of socialist real
It's art, right?
Now I look back at it and I think, Jesus, I posted that. God, I can't believe I posted that. I would never post that now. And I see it very differently now, and I kind of process it differently now. So I don't judge people for falling into certain kind of naive points of view, but I think, you know, we all have a responsibility to keep kind of talking and thinking, and if it calls you out about something, whatever it is, you know, if someone calls you out for sexism or racism or homophobia or anything, you stop and you think about it and kind of go, yeah, maybe I was wrong there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking about it. So I've got two more questions for you. Again, this may seem like a stupid question, but how are you feeling about the coming year?
Oh, the coming that is going to be like the 2023? Oh, well, you know, I'm not optimistic nor pessimistic. So like I'm kind of just in the place, and we will see where it goes. However, yeah, I like to listen to our head of intelligence, and he said the counter-offense will start this spring. And I was like, well, that's cool, but you know, like counter-offense, it's still a lot of deaths, a lot of people, and it's still gonna be the hard period. So like I'm kind of, you know, like I'm going with the flow. However, I'm trying to adjust the flow sometimes to make it more beneficial for students, for my family, for the soldiers in the way that I can help. So like that's what is my idea. And I'm doing like very small, like on the scale of the Ukraine parts, not like Pritula Foundation or like the Save One Life Foundation or something like that. It's just, you know, like one little step that I'm doing with this flow. And this step, like I did, and the other teacher did, and the teacher from Chernihiv did, and the teacher from Kyiv did, and everyone did. And then it brings us a little closer, and we are more sane in the brain, and we are together in the community, in the society here. So that's like the main point, like how I'm trying to live right now. Like that's not too optimistic, not too pessimistic, but there. Yeah.
And I guess, like you said, not thinking about months or years, but thinking about what can you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because, you know, I actually tried. I was trying to plan something, you know, like in 2 months, we're going to do this and that. In 1 month, we're going to. No, it's not working this way, at least at this point of our life. So, like, maybe it will be after the victory, but still, we will have to restore so many things. We would have to do so many restorations, like, recreations and building something from scratch.
Yeah.
And that's another point that in my life, you know, what keeps me sane is that a lot of people right now are missing their lives before war. I wish that it was before war. I do not miss that. Maybe it's not the right way to say, but I actually understand that war made me stiffer. War made me stronger, and it made like the same thing to our society. We are stronger, yes, with the terrifying rise. Like it's like with the blood, with literal lives of our people. But the society, the Ukrainians, became much stronger, and they can overcome absolutely anything that is out there in the world. So yeah, like that's what I wanted to say. And it's just we are going with the flow, and we will do everything, not thinking about like something out of the timeline or whatever. Yes, like that.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say to anyone watching, if anyone's got any questions or anything you want to ask, please do just stick them in the comments. I'm going to just ask you one final sort of question, really, which is there anything else you'd like to share with us while we're waiting to see if anyone else has any?
Yeah. So like, I just want everyone to not to fall into despair. I want everyone to be like as cheerful as they can be in that moment, in that situation that they can be. And it's not about, you know, like positive psychology or something, but this what will keep us afloat, and do what you have to do. If you need to go, one of my friends, she said to me, like, if like when I was burnt out, she said, like, turn into the oh my god, snail mode. And I was like, snail mode, what's that? It's
along, yeah,
crawling and doing the bare minimum. And you know, like, I was like, oh yes, like that's probably, and I did. And then I went to do something else, and now I have got much more projects running, like for the society out there, for the people, like for Ukraine. And start small. And that's what's the main point. You can do something, even like little thing. And I'm not talking like everyone right now is saying about 5-10 hryvnias for the donation. Yeah, it's also great. But if you want to feel something, like, bake the cookies for the soldiers, go give this to our local territory defense. So like, or like buy some apples and give this to the people at the checkpoints. Yeah, so like, well, sometimes in cities you can do this. In the occupation, God forbid, no, please save yourself, like stay wherever you are. And because I understand that it's absolutely different lives there. So like, lives under the constant shelling. For example, one of my uncles, he's right now still in the Chuhuyev district. It's near the Kupensk, and it's very close, and they are being constantly shelled. And he said to me, like, oh, I'm so angry. I'm so, like, he's annoyed already, you know, like he's annoyed to that part. And he said to me, like, okay, I will go to my cousin, like it's my aunt as well. So like, we will live together because she's got a cow, she needs some help. And I'm like, okay, do that. And you know, like, this little step that he's done, it kept him sane, my aunt sane, and the cow is being fed and taken care of. Yes.
I've got friends who've got family who are still in the occupied territories up in Donbass, and I know that the way the people in the occupied territories deal with it is just looking after the vegetables and growing the potatoes and making
chickens or something. Yes, so like very simple.
And you know, making sure you're still in your house so that no one comes to take it from you. And you know, I guess people just get on and do what they can do to stay sane in that respect. I mean, to be honest, for me, this is kind of how I've ended up doing all of this, because I've spent 20 years traveling and working in Eastern Europe and getting to know loads of people. And when the war started, it kind of,
it blew mind, actually. Yes, you know,
I felt kind of dragged into it in a way, and I felt helpless. And so my way of dealing with it was just to try to help as much as I can, and try to find rooms for people and put people in contact with other people and send some money.
And that's what you did. And you see, like, you became the part of the community. Like, you started to move. You understood the whole terror about all this stuff there, even though that you said, like, you were dragged into this. But that's what most of the people, unfortunately, I mean, like the Western, the left wings and everyone, that they don't realize that if they don't do something now, they will be dragged into this, like whether they want it or not.
That was very clear to me already. So, you know, Yeah. I noticed we haven't had any questions coming in, so
Okay.
you know, I'm guessing that's it. And I guess we just should finish by saying thank you to everyone for joining us and for watching us and for supporting these lives. I will be back next month with another one. If you're watching and you are a Ukrainian teacher and you'd like to do one of these yourselves and be represented, please do get in touch. If you know someone you think should be doing one, please do get in touch. And thank you very, very, very much for joining me. And Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava, thank you so much for being there, and thank you very much for doing this kind of series. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really.
Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah. Take care of yourself and keep in touch. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch, of course. Thanks very
Right.
much. Yep.
All right. Take care.